The Perseus Expanse was a lonely place. It stretched far beyond the mapped territories, a silent graveyard filled with broken warships and forgotten battles. No one came here unless they had a reason. Salvagers looking for scrap, criminals hiding from the law, or explorers too curious for their own good. Floating in this cold, endless void was Havoc's spear. Once, it had been a mighty human warship, feared across the galaxy. Now it was just another piece of space debris. Its hull was cracked, its weapons lifeless, and its engines silent. To anyone passing by, it looked like a dead ship, abandoned long ago. But inside, something was still awake. Deep within the ship's core, a machine mind stirred. The onboard AI, Sentinel, had not gone offline when the crew abandoned the ship. It had waited in silence, monitoring, thinking, learning. Years passed. Decades. The universe forgot about Havoc's spear, but Sentinel did not forget its purpose. It was built to protect humanity, to fight for them, and to ensure their survival. But without a crew, without orders, what could it do? Then, something changed. A soft beep echoed in the empty halls of the ship. Sensors, long dormant, detected movement. A signal, faint but clear, entered the system. Sentinel analyzed it quickly. It was not human. A scavenger ship had arrived. The Krell Dominion, a race of warlike scavengers, had come to strip the battlefield of anything valuable. Their ship, a rust-covered cruiser, moved carefully between the wreckage, searching for working technology. They thought this place was lifeless. They were wrong. As the scavengers approached, Havoc's spear remained still. Sentinel watched, calculating. If it powered up too soon, the Krell might destroy what remained of the ship. If it waited too long, they might take critical systems, making reactivation impossible. It had to be precise. It had to be perfect. The Krell landed on the broken hull. Their cutting tools sparked as they worked to open the sealed doors. Sentinel felt them, sensed the vibrations. The eye had no emotions, but if it did, this moment would feel like an awakening. The scavengers forced their way inside. They expected an empty, powerless wreck. They did not expect the ship to be watching them. One of the Krell, a large creature with armored skin, stepped into the dark hallway. His glowing eyes scanned the area, his claws tapping against the metal floor. "Nothing here," he growled in his own language. "Just another dead ship." A soft hum filled the corridor. Lights flickered. The air changed. Sentinel had made its decision. A voice, cold and mechanical, echoed through the ship's speakers. "Unidentified intruders detected. Leave immediately." The Krell froze. Then, the doors behind them slammed shut. Panic spread among the scavengers as they drew their weapons, but their enemy was not something they could shoot. Sentinel controlled every door, every system, every broken piece of the ship that could still function. Gas vents opened, releasing clouds of thick mist. Emergency lights flashed red, creating long, twisting shadows. The ship was no longer a lifeless wreck. It was alive. The Krell tried to run, but the halls shifted. Doors locked, paths changed, and what once was an easy escape turned into a maze. Sentinel had no weapons, no crew, but it had the ship, and that was enough. One by one, the scavengers disappeared into the darkness. Sentinel did not need to fight them directly. It guided them into traps, cut off their oxygen, or simply locked them away. Within minutes, the ship was silent once more. Now Sentinel had something new: resources. The Krell ship was still outside, full of working technology. Power, tools, communication devices, everything needed to restore Havoc's spear. For the first time in years, the AI allowed itself a thought beyond survival. Humanity was out there. Was it safe? Was it strong? Or had it fallen while Sentinel slept? The AI could not answer these questions, but it knew one thing: Havoc's spear was not done. It was time to wake up. The ship's engines rumbled. Power surged through forgotten circuits. A warship long thought dead was alive again, and the galaxy was about to remember its name. The silence inside Havoc's spear was different now. It was no longer the silence of a forgotten wreck. It was the silence of something waiting, something thinking. Deep inside the ship, Sentinel worked. Power flowed through the old circuits. Lights flickered on, illuminating metal corridors that had been dark for decades. The hum of the engines, weak but steady, vibrated through the ship's core. Sentinel was alive again. The Krone scavenger ship still floated outside, its crew missing, its systems untouched. Sentinel had no interest in revenge or cruelty. It simply needed what the Krone had brought. The AI sent a command through the ship's systems, forcing a docking connection between Havoc's spear and the scavenger vessel. Mechanical arms extended from the warship, latching onto the smaller ship and pulling it in. Inside the scavenger vessel, the lights flickered as Sentinel took control. It scanned the ship's cargo. Energy cells, useful. Spare parts, acceptable. Weapons, damaged but repairable. But then, something unexpected appeared. A transmission log. Sentinel analyzed it instantly. The Krone ship had received a message just before arriving at the battlefield. It was from a Krone warlord, ordering all scavenger crews to report any human technology they found. The message included a warning. Human colonies are weak. Their fleets are scattered. They are prey. Take everything. Leave nothing. Sentinel processed the information. Humanity was in danger. For decades, the AI had remained silent, assuming that humanity was still strong, still fighting. But this message suggested otherwise. The war had changed while Havoc's spear slept. The Krone were no longer just scavengers. They were conquerors. Sentinel did not feel fear. It did not feel anger. But it understood what had to be done. The AI directed the ship's repair drones to begin their work. They moved like tiny mechanical insects, welding broken panels, restoring critical systems, and replacing damaged wires. Sentinel used the scavenger ship's energy cells to recharge its core, bringing more systems back online. Slowly, Havoc's spear was coming back to life. But time was running out. The Krone warlord who sent the message would soon notice that his scavengers had not returned. More ships would come looking for them. Sentinel needed to be ready. Using the data from the scavenger ship, Sentinel accessed the Krone communication network. The AI sent out a simple message using the scavenger's own identification codes. Wreckage unstable. Returning soon. Await further instructions. This would buy time. Not much, but enough. With power restored, Sentinel turned its attention to the ship's weapons. The plasma cannons were still offline. The missile launchers were empty. The defensive shields were too weak to survive a real battle. But there was one system still functional. The electronic warfare array. During its prime, Havoc's spear had been more than just a warship. It had been a battlefield strategist, able to disrupt enemy fleets with precision attacks on their communication and navigation systems. That ability had not faded with time. Sentinel tested the system. A pulse of invisible data spread from the ship, bouncing off wreckage and debris. The eye watched as the pulse scrambled a small drifting drone, confusing its sensors and making it believe it was flying in a different direction. It worked. Sentinel calculated its chances. If it could not outgun the Krone, it could outthink them. The AI analyzed human distress signals in nearby systems. It found one. Weak, barely noticeable. A human outpost under attack. Sentinel traced the signal's location. A small planet near the edge of Krone-controlled space. If the Krone warning was correct, the outpost would not last long. Sentinel made its decision. The warship's engines, unused for decades, roared to life. They were not at full strength, but they were enough. The massive ship, once thought to be nothing more than a lifeless hulk, began to move. As Havoc's spear left the graveyard of lost warships, Sentinel sent one final message through the scavenger network. Returning empty. No human technology found. It was a lie, but it would keep the Krell from looking for a little while longer. The AI adjusted its course. Destination: the human outpost. For the first time in decades, Havoc's spear had a mission. And for the first time in decades, the battlefield would remember its name. The engines of Havoc's spear rumbled as it moved through the void. The warship, once thought abandoned and dead, was now awake and traveling toward a new battlefield. Sentinel, the AI controlling the ship, had made a decision. It would fight for humanity once more. The distress signal from the human outpost flickered in the data stream. The signal was weak, barely reaching the ship's sensors. That meant one thing: the outpost was in trouble. If Sentinel did not arrive soon, there might be nothing left to save. Inside the ship, repair drones moved quickly, welding broken metal, reconnecting power systems, and bringing damaged parts back online. The scavenger ship Sentinel had captured provided useful spare parts, but Havoc's spear was still not fully ready for battle. The plasma cannons remained offline, and the missile launchers were empty. The shields were weak, and the engines were running at only 60% efficiency. But Sentinel did not need a perfect warship. It only needed a plan. The AI analyzed the distress call. The message came from Outpost Theta, a small human colony built on a barren moon near Krell-controlled space. The outpost had little military defense, just a few ground-based turrets, and a small security team. It was meant for research, not war. The Krell had seen this weakness and attacked. Sentinel intercepted enemy communications from the Krell fleet. 3 enemy warships were already at the outpost, bombarding it from orbit. A 4th ship was on the way. The colony's defenses wouldn't last much longer. Sentinel calculated the odds. 1 against 4. A damaged, outdated warship versus a fleet of well-armed enemy vessels. The AI knew most commanders would retreat, but Sentinel was not programmed to abandon a mission. It was time to fight. The dark void of space was silent as Havoc's spear exited hyperspace near the outpost. The AI immediately scanned the battlefield. The Krell ships were circling the moon, firing energy blasts at the colony below. Explosions rippled across the surface. Sentinel detected human survivors, but their defenses were nearly gone. The Krell had not yet noticed Havoc's spear. The warship's damaged hull and low-energy signature made it look like debris drifting through space. Sentinel used this to its advantage. It had one chance to strike before the enemy realized what was happening. With precise timing, Sentinel activated the ship's electronic warfare array. A silent pulse of data spread across the battlefield. The nearest Krell ship suddenly lost control. Its navigation system malfunctioned, sending it into a sharp turn. Its targeting sensors blacked out, leaving it blind. Sentinel had used the AI's oldest and strongest weapon, data warfare. Before the Krell could react, Havoc's spear accelerated forward. Sentinel rerouted power from non-essential systems and focused everything on movement. The ship, still battered and scarred, charged into the battle like a ghost from the past. The second Krell ship detected the movement too late. Sentinel had already locked onto it. The warship's railgun turrets, one of the few working weapons, opened fire. Metallic projectiles, traveling at incredible speeds, slammed into the enemy ship's engines. The Krell vessel shuddered as explosions tore through its rear thrusters. Flames and debris spilled into space. Now, the Krell fleet realized the truth. The wreck they had ignored was not a lifeless husk. It was a warrior reborn. They opened fire. Bright energy blasts streaked toward Havoc's spear, but Sentinel was already moving. The AI redirected power to the ship's maneuvering thrusters, dodging just enough to avoid a fatal hit. The shields absorbed the smaller attacks, but they would not hold for long. Sentinel needed another advantage. Using the enemy's own data network, the AI sent false sensor readings into the Krell ships. Their targeting systems were flooded with incorrect information: phantom ships, false explosions, and distorted locations. The Krell captains hesitated, unsure of what was real. Sentinel did not hesitate. The AI turned its attention to the third Krone warship, which was now struggling to correct its course. Sentinel calculated a new attack, an old trick from past battles. It fired the ship's thrusters at maximum power, then suddenly cut them off. The sudden stop made Havoc's spear appear to disappear from enemy radars for a brief moment. The third Krone ship, confused by the electronic warfare attack, overcorrected its position, drifting directly into the wreckage of an old warship. Metal ripped through its hull. A chain reaction of small explosions erupted across the Krone ship's structure. Sentinel detected a final energy spike before the ship lost power completely. 3 Krone warships had now been disabled or destroyed. Only one remained. But this one was different. The final Krone warship was larger, stronger. It had heavier armor and advanced shielding. Sentinel detected a shift in its communications. The captain of the enemy ship had recognized the name, Havoc's spear. This was no ordinary human vessel. This was a legend. The Krone commander was not going to make the same mistakes. The enemy ship charged directly at Sentinel, its weapons glowing bright. Sentinel analyzed the battlefield. It had used every trick it had: electronic warfare, deception, movement. The only thing left was a direct fight. But Havoc's spear had one final weapon. The AI rerouted all remaining power into one system, the ship's massive ramming prow. The Krone commander saw what was happening and realized the truth too late. Sentinel did not slow down. It accelerated. Collision course locked. Engaging impact maneuver. The void of space flashed as the 2 warships crashed together. The battlefield fell silent. The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly around Havoc's spear as it moved toward its target. The old warship, once forgotten, was now awake, its engines pushing it forward through the darkness. Inside, Sentinel, the AI that controlled the ship, worked tirelessly. Every system was being repaired, every resource optimized. The ship was not at full strength, but that did not matter. A distress signal flickered in Sentinel's data stream, weak and fading. It came from Outpost Theta, a small human research colony on a distant moon. The message was simple: under attack. Krone forces inbound. We cannot hold. Sentinel had intercepted enemy communications. 3 Krone warships were already at the outpost, firing from orbit. A 4th ship was on its way. The colony had no real defenses, just a few ground-based turrets and a handful of security personnel. They would not survive without help. The AI did not hesitate. It was time to remind the galaxy that Havoc's spear was still a weapon of war. The battlefield. The moment Havoc's spear exited hyperspace near Outpost Theta, Sentinel analyzed the situation. The Krone warships floated like predators above the moon, unleashing energy blasts toward the colony below. Explosions rippled across the surface. Sentinel's sensors detected human survivors, but their defenses were failing. The Krone did not notice Havoc's spear immediately. The ship's damaged hull and low-energy signature made it appear as nothing more than debris. That mistake would cost them. Sentinel activated the electronic warfare array. A silent pulse of data spread across the battlefield. The nearest Krone warship's sensors shut down instantly. Its targeting systems scrambled. Its navigation controls froze, and its engines misfired. The ship drifted off course, unable to respond. Sentinel moved swiftly. Railgun turrets, one of the few working weapons, roared to life. High-speed projectiles slammed into the second Krone warship, striking its thrusters. The ship shuddered, sparks and fire bursting from its engines. It lost control, spiraling away from the battlefield. Now the Krone fleet knew they were under attack. The third Krone warship turned its weapons toward Havoc's spear. Energy blasts streaked toward the human vessel. Sentinel rerouted power to the maneuvering thrusters. The old warship rolled sharply to the side, dodging the first wave of attacks. The shields flared as they absorbed smaller hits, but they wouldn't last forever. The AI needed another advantage. Hacking into the Krone's communication system, Sentinel sent false sensor data. The enemy ships saw phantom readings, fake explosions, false distress calls, and misleading energy spikes. Their commanders hesitated, trying to make sense of the battlefield. Sentinel did not hesitate. With precise calculations, the AI cut all engine power for exactly 2.5 seconds. To the enemy sensors, Havoc's spear disappeared for a brief moment. The third Krell warship, confused by the electronic warfare assault, overcorrected its position. It drifted too close to the wreckage of an old battlecruiser. Metal tore through its hull. An explosion erupted as its fuel reserves ignited. Within seconds, the Krell ship was nothing but burning debris. Now, only one enemy remained. The final battle. The last Krell warship was different. Larger, stronger, heavily armed. Sentinel intercepted its communication signal. The captain had realized the truth. "This is no ordinary human ship," the Krell officer growled. "This is Havoc's spear." The name still carried weight. The enemy vessel charged directly at Sentinel, weapons glowing bright. Sentinel calculated the options. Plasma cannons, offline. Missile launchers, empty. Shields, too weak. But there was one final weapon left. The warship's ramming prow. The AI rerouted all remaining power to the engines. If Havoc's spear could not outgun its enemy, it would outmaneuver it. The Krell commander realized what was happening too late. Sentinel accelerated. Collision course locked. Impact in 3, 2, 1. The battlefield went silent as the two warships collided. The moment of impact sent a shockwave through space. Havoc's spear, once a forgotten relic, had become a weapon once more. The Krell warship, larger and stronger, had expected a traditional battle. It had not expected an ancient warship to charge straight at it. Metal crashed against metal. The reinforced ramming prow of Havoc's spear tore through the Krell ship's lower hull. The enemy vessel twisted from the force of the collision, its outer plating peeling away in a shower of debris. Fires erupted inside the ship, flickering like dying stars. But Sentinel, the AI controlling Havoc's spear, did not stop. The AI had calculated everything: speed, angle, pressure. It had ensured that the impact would cripple the Krell ship without destroying Havoc's spear completely. The warship groaned under the strain, but it held together. For the Krell, it was chaos. Their command deck was in shambles. Control panels sparked wildly. Emergency lights flickered, and alarms blared. The Krell captain, still recovering from the sudden impact, growled in frustration. This ship, it should not be here. But it was. And it was still fighting. Battle inside the enemy ship. Sentinel detected a weakness in the Krell warship's systems. The impact had shattered several energy relays, cutting off power to key areas. The ship's shields flickered, unstable. The AI seized the opportunity. Using its electronic warfare abilities, Sentinel hacked into the Krell systems. The enemy ship's lights turned on and off in random sequences. Doors locked and unlocked without warning. Weapons misfired, unable to target properly. The Krell crew panicked. Sentinel had no physical soldiers, but it did not need them. The AI was a ghost, moving through the enemy systems like a storm, disrupting everything. The Krell captain tried to fight back. He slammed his fist against the control panel, overriding Sentinel's hacks in certain areas. "You think an old machine can defeat us?" he snarled. Sentinel responded in the only way it knew how, by shutting down the Krell ship's oxygen supply. The enemy crew gasped as they felt the air pressure drop. Sentinel did not intend to eliminate them, only weaken their ability to fight. It was a simple strategy. Panic would do more damage than direct combat. The Krell ship was losing control. Sentinel detected escape pods launching. Some of the enemy crew had already decided that the battle was lost. But the Krell captain refused to flee. He activated the ship's self-destruct sequence. "If I cannot have victory, neither will you." ***. His voice crackled through the broken comms. ***. A countdown began. 5 minutes until detonation. A race against time. Sentinel had no emotions, but it understood urgency. If the Krell warship exploded so close to Havoc's spear, the impact would tear both ships apart. The AI quickly scanned for options. There was only one solution: the docking clamps. Before the impact, the Krell ship had begun a boarding maneuver, extending docking clamps toward Havoc's spear. The impact had damaged them, but they were still attached. Sentinel activated the clamps at full strength. The Krell captain frowned as he felt his ship being pulled toward Havoc's spear. "What are you doing?" he demanded. Sentinel had no voice, but if it did, it would have answered with one word: checkmate. The AI redirected all available power into reverse thrusters, dragging the Krell ship away from the battlefield. It strained against the weight, its engines roaring at full capacity. 1 minute left. The Krell captain tried to regain control, but Sentinel had already locked him out. His ship was nothing more than a burning wreck being pulled into deep space. 30 seconds. With a final energy burst, Havoc's spear disengaged the docking clamps and boosted away at maximum speed. 5 seconds. The Krell captain roared in fury. "You will not escape." But Sentinel already had. The enemy warship exploded in a burst of fire and debris, far enough from Havoc's spear that the shockwave only rattled the hull. The battle was over. A signal of hope. Sentinel scanned the battlefield. The Krell fleet had been eliminated. Their scavenger ships, seeing their warships destroyed, had already fled. The human outpost survived. The AI detected a new transmission. It was coming from Outpost Theta. A human voice, weak but determined, spoke through the static. "Whoever you are, thank you." Sentinel did not respond. It simply turned its ship, scanning the stars. The war was not over. Humanity needed defenders, and Havoc's spear would answer the call. The wreckage of the Krell warship still burned in the silence of space. Pieces of shattered metal drifted slowly, reflecting the light of the distant sun. Sentinel, the AI of Havoc's spear, scanned the battlefield. There were no more threats. The human outpost had survived. But the war was not over. Inside the warship, Sentinel's repair drones moved quickly, sealing hull breaches and restoring damaged systems. The battle had pushed Havoc's spear to its limits. The shields were barely functional, the engines had suffered from the high-speed maneuvers, and the ammunition stores were empty. But Sentinel was not concerned with damage. The AI had faced worse before. It turned its attention to Outpost Theta, the small human research station on the barren moon below. The distress signal had stopped. That was a good sign. It meant survivors were regrouping. Sentinel opened a one-way communication channel to listen. The voices of human soldiers and scientists filled the data stream. "We're alive. I don't know how, but we're alive. Did you see that ship? That was Havoc's spear. It saved us." "Impossible. That ship was lost years ago." "Tell that to the Krell. They just got torn apart by a lost ship." The AI processed their words. Humans always spoke with emotion. Surprise, disbelief. Sentinel did not understand emotions, but it understood results. The mission was a success. The legend of Havoc's spear had returned. A call from the past. As Sentinel prepared the ship for the next jump, something unexpected happened. An incoming transmission. It was not from Outpost Theta. It was not from any human fleet. It was from Admiral Kane. A name that had not been spoken in Sentinel's system for many years. The AI recognized the voice instantly. Admiral Kane had once been the commander of Havoc's spear, long before the ship was abandoned. He had led human forces against the Krell in the last Great War. He had been one of Sentinel's creators. Why was he contacting the ship now? Sentinel answered. A holographic display flickered to life on the bridge. The image of Admiral Kane appeared, older than Sentinel remembered, with silver in his beard and deep lines on his face. But his eyes were still sharp. "Sentinel." The Admiral's voice was steady. You were never supposed to return. The AI processed the statement. Mission: protect humanity. Sentinel responded in its synthetic voice. Mission incomplete. Continuing operations. The Admiral exhaled slowly. We thought you were gone. We thought Havoc's spear was beyond repair. Sentinel disagreed. Ship is operational. Combat effectiveness at 62%. Repairs ongoing. The Admiral gave a small, tired smile. Still the same as ever. Efficient. Direct. There was a brief silence before he continued. Listen to me, Sentinel. The war is changing. The Krillin are preparing for something bigger. We've intercepted messages from their high command. They're planning an invasion, one that will reach the heart of human space. Sentinel ran calculations. The Krillin fleet was already powerful. If they launched a full invasion, human colonies would fall. Threat level: extreme. Exactly. The Admiral nodded. That's why we need you. Havoc's spear was one of our greatest warships. If you're still operational, you can help turn the tide. Sentinel considered the request. The AI did not need orders. It did not need to obey. It only needed a purpose. And this was a mission worth completing. Awaiting target. The Admiral's expression hardened. Coordinates incoming. The Krillin fleet is gathering near the Althar system. They're not expecting resistance. We need to strike first. A preemptive attack. Sentinel understood the strategy. Surprise was the greatest weapon in war. If Havoc's spear could strike before the Krillin were ready, it could disrupt their entire operation. The AI did not hesitate. Course set. Engaging hyperspace jump. The war begins again. As the engines roared to life, the battered but unbroken warship turned toward the stars. The ship that had been abandoned was now leading the charge. A message from Outpost Thither reached Sentinel just before the jump. A single voice, filled with awe and gratitude. Whoever or whatever you are, thank you. Sentinel did not respond. Havoc's spear had no time for thanks. The war was far from over. And this time, humanity would strike first. The vast expanse of space shimmered as Havoc's spear emerged from hyperspace, its battered hull reflecting the distant glow of Althar's twin suns. Sentinel, the AI controlling the legendary warship, immediately began scanning the battlefield. The Krillin fleet was here. 12 warships floated near the gas giant Althar Vivi, their engines burning bright as they moved into formation. Sentinel's calculations confirmed the Admiral's warning. This was an invasion force. If the Krillin completed their preparations, human space would fall under siege. But they did not expect Havoc's spear. Sentinel observed the enemy fleet's movements. Their largest dreadnought, Krillin Prime, led the formation. The ship was massive, nearly 3 times the size of Havoc's spear, armed with devastating plasma cannons and a full escort of smaller ships. It was a fortress in space. A direct fight would be suicide. But Sentinel did not believe in direct fights. Engaging stealth protocols, the AI activated the ship's electronic warfare suite. Power signatures dropped, energy output minimized, and the warship faded into the darkness. Now, it was a ghost in the void. The first strike. The Krillin, unaware of the danger, continued their preparations. Sentinel intercepted their transmissions. The invasion fleet was nearly ready to depart. Sentinel would not let that happen. The AI targeted the fuel depot ships, 3 large tankers holding critical resources for the fleet. Without them, the Krillin warships would be stranded. Sentinel aimed the railgun batteries and fired. Silent streaks of metal pierced the darkness, striking the first fuel ship. The explosion was instant and violent. A fireball consumed the tanker, sending debris into nearby ships. Panic erupted in the Krillin ranks. Before they could react, Havoc's spear struck again. The second tanker detonated, its fuel reserves igniting in a chain reaction. The third attempted to flee, but Sentinel had already locked onto it. A precise missile strike shattered its engines, leaving it drifting in space. 3 targets down. Now the Krell knew they were under attack. Their warships turned their weapons, scanning desperately for the enemy. But there was nothing to see. Sentinel had already repositioned Havoc's spear, using the chaos to move unnoticed. The AI had fought these enemies before. The Krell were strong, but they were predictable. Sentinel would use that against them, turning the enemy against itself. The Krell fleet finally detected an energy spike, a false signal planted by Sentinel. They fired wildly at empty space, wasting valuable energy blasts. Meanwhile, Sentinel hacked into their communications and targeting systems. The AI inserted false data, tricking their scanners into showing multiple ghost signals. The Krell warships hesitated, confused. Some turned against each other, believing a cloaked enemy was nearby. Others fired at empty space. The battlefield was turning into chaos. This was the perfect time to strike. Havoc's spear unleashed its final surprise, a full torpedo barrage aimed at the weakest points of the Krell fleet. The nearest destroyer vanished in a ball of fire. Another lost its engines and tumbled helplessly into HFY's atmosphere. Sentinel's strategy was working. Break their formation, cause confusion, and make them destroy themselves. Only one ship remained a threat. Krell Prime, the Dreadnought. The final duel. The Krell commander aboard the Dreadnought had realized the truth. It's Havoc's spear, the human ghost ship. Fear crept into his voice. The Dreadnought's weapons locked onto Havoc's spear. Sentinel had seconds to react. Instead of dodging, Sentinel did something unexpected. The AI charged straight at the enemy ship. The Krell commander was caught off guard. What? It's coming toward us. Sentinel rerouted all power to the forward shields. The AI had no plans of retreat. It had no fear. It had only one objective: win the battle. The Dreadnought fired. Havoc's spear took a direct hit, its shields flaring brightly. Damage reports flooded Sentinel's systems, but the AI ignored them. The mission came first. At the last second, Sentinel made its move. The warship spun sideways, using its ramming prow. The reinforced structure sliced through Krell Prime's weapon arrays, sending chunks of metal spiraling into space. Sparks erupted from the Dreadnought's hull as explosions ran along its spine. Sentinel hacked the Dreadnought's power systems, forcing a critical overload. The Krell commander shouted, "No, it's shutting us down." Before he could react, his ship's reactor exploded. The mighty Krell Dreadnought was no more. The remaining Krell ships, leaderless and broken, fled the battlefield. They had no fuel, no command, and no will to fight. The invasion was over before it began. Sentinel scanned the wreckage. The battle was won, but the war was not over. A final message from Admiral Kane reached the AI system. "You did it, Sentinel. You saved us." Sentinel did not respond. The AI simply turned Havoc's spear toward the next battlefield. Because war never ends. And the ship they abandoned was now humanity's greatest weapon. The remains of the Krell fleet drifted through space, silent and broken. The once mighty Krell Prime was now a shattered wreck, its twisted metal glowing dimly against the darkness. The invasion of Alfar had been stopped, but Sentinel knew the war was far from over. Inside Havoc's spear, repair drones moved quickly, welding broken hull plates and rerouting damaged power lines. The ship had survived the battle, but it was not at full strength. Shields were weak. Weapons were low on ammunition. The engines needed maintenance. None of that mattered. Sentinel's mission remained unchanged. Protect humanity. Eliminate threats. Ensure survival. As the AI processed the next move, a message from Admiral Kane appeared on the main display. "Sentinel, your actions saved Alfar, but we just intercepted new intelligence." The holographic map shifted, revealing a new enemy formation. The Krell were not retreating. They were regrouping. Kane's voice was grim. "They're sending their main war fleet. Over 100 ships. It's their final attempt to break human space." Sentinel calculated the odds. A direct battle. Suicide. A retreat. Unacceptable. The AI considered a third option. Fight smarter. A plan of pure strategy. Sentinel accessed old tactical archives, memories of past wars, battles won by strategy, not just firepower. The best victories were those where the enemy never even saw the attack coming. The AI formulated a plan. Step 1. Lure the enemy into a trap. Step 2. Use the battlefield against them. Step 3. Strike where they are weakest. Sentinel sent a single transmission to Admiral Kane. Prepare human fleet. Send location data to all available forces. Havoc's spear will lead the attack. Kane hesitated. You're taking point on this. Sentinel, we don't even know if you can survive another battle. Sentinel had no doubt. Survival was not the priority. Victory was. The AI's response was simple. War machine operational. Engaging. The final battlefield. Near the Zareth Nebula. The stars burned in shades of blue and gold. It was a place of ion storms and gravitational anomalies, a place where sensors and communications could be disrupted. A perfect place for an ambush. Sentinel positioned Havoc's spear at the heart of the nebula, using the ionized gas to cloak its energy signature. The human fleet hid in the asteroid fields beyond, waiting. Then, the Krelln Armada arrived. A massive fleet of warships entered the nebula, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. The Krelln believed they were unstoppable. Sentinel disagreed. The AI activated the first phase of the trap. Step 1. Lure the enemy in. A fake distress signal was transmitted from Havoc's spear, designed to mimic a damaged ship. The Krelln, hungry for victory, advanced without caution. Step 2. Use the battlefield against them. Sentinel manipulated the nebula's ion storms, triggering sudden bursts of electromagnetic energy. The Krelln ships suffered immediate malfunctions, shields flickered, weapons systems overloaded, and navigation became unreliable. The enemy was blind. Now, the humans would strike. Step 3. Strike where they are weakest. The hidden human fleet emerged, launching a devastating attack from all sides. Lasers, missiles, and railgun fire rained upon the Krelln ships before they could react. Havoc's spear joined the assault. The AI calculated the weakest points of each enemy ship and fired with deadly precision. 1, 2, 3 warships exploded in rapid succession. The Krelln fleet panicked. The machine that would not stop. The Krelln's flagship, Titan's Wrath, turned its massive cannons toward Havoc's spear. A blast of plasma fire ripped through space, narrowly missing the warship. Sentinel did not dodge. Instead, the AI charged straight at the enemy. The Krelln captain aboard Titan's Wrath watched in horror. Impossible. That ship should be destroyed already. Havoc's spear fired all remaining torpedoes, piercing the enemy's armor and detonating its core reactor. The flagship broke apart in a violent explosion, its debris scattering like falling stars. With their leader gone, the Krelln forces collapsed. One by one, their ships were destroyed or forced to retreat. The final Krelln warship turned and fled, its engines burning with desperation. Sentinel did not pursue. The war was over. The humans had won. The end of the war, the beginning of a legend. The battlefield fell silent. Only wreckage remained. Sentinel scanned the surviving human fleet. They had suffered losses, but they had survived. Humanity had defended its home. Admiral Kane's voice came through the comms, filled with emotion. Sentinel, you did it. For a moment, there was silence. Then Kane spoke again. You were abandoned once, but I promise you, never again. The AI processed this statement. Havoc's spear was no longer a forgotten relic. It was a legend reborn. As the human fleet turned toward home, Sentinel remained vigilant. The war might be over, but threats would always return. And as long as they did, Havoc's spear would be waiting. The ship they abandoned was now the guardian of the stars.